All right, welcome back to Radio's Yard. The NFL draft is over. These two guys last week sat down with me, JT and CJ, to talk about some pre-draft kind of notes, news and notes that are going on. And now that it's over with, we go back to our news and notes from last week. I do want to start with this. We have a lot of hot takes we're going to go over here in the next couple minutes. Cam Ward went number 1 overall. Normally when a guy goes number 1 overall, we talk about him. There's a billboard, there's this, there's that. Have you ever seen an NFL draft in the history of both of you watching? Maybe I have a couple more years than both of you watching NFL drafts. I have never seen an NFL draft where a guy gets drafted number 1 and it's like, okay, great, he's gone, he's in Tennessee. Let's move on for the rest of the draft. Little bit, in my mind, disrespectful to Cam Ward at that point. CJ, I'll start with you. JT, get it out.
100%, I agree. I mean, like you said, being a first-round pick is, like, huge. You know, they deserve the publicity and stuff like that. But my thing is, in the back of my mind, knowing Cam Ward, I feel like he doesn't care at the same time.
Right.
Because if you've seen clips over the internet and stuff like that, he's like, I'm a football player. I want to be reminded as a football player. So at the end of the day, like, he doesn't really care. If you look at, I'm not trying to bring clothes and all that stuff into the factory and all that stuff like that, but look what Cam Ward wore.
Right.
It's simple.
Right. Little plain suit.
Right. He means business. He's number 1 overall pick. He knew he was going number one overall pick. So I don't see why he just didn't get the amount of love, because he gets drafted number 1, but they're talking about Shedeur. They're talking about all these other quarterbacks, like, who they could have taken and stuff like that. I'm like, how are you guys, like, pooping on a number 1 draft pick?
Already. He hasn't played one down in the NFL. The hype around him was huge. We knew he was going to be the number 1 overall pick for a while now.
For sure.
And yet it just happened and it was gone like a fart in the wind at that point. What do you think, JT?
It's Cam Ward's just one of those guys. He's like he's gonna pack up his lunch pail and head to work. You know what I mean? He's gonna keep his nose on the grindstone. He's not really like too much of a flashy guy. So to him, I'm sure this is like, it's whatever. Right. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, with the Shedeur thing, everyone was talking about that. It's kind of crazy. People don't talk about just the number 1 overall pick. It's like, it happened, He's the best in the draft, whatever. Right. And they aren't talking about it a lot. And I'm like, man, this guy's really, really good. And, like, we should be talking about him, you know what I mean? So
he wasn't the number 1 overall pick by luck. Yeah. It wasn't just they picked a name.
Yeah.
It was Cam Ward's name.
It wasn't a raffle.
Right. This wasn't like a lottery system where it was like, Tennessee, you get Cam Ward. That's it. You get Cam Ward at that point. Let's move on. Number 2 pick. Big trade, Cleveland, Jacksonville. Cleveland gave up a lot. I mean, Jacksonville gave up a lot to Cleveland to move up. You saw the video right afterwards when Travis Hunter went to the Jacksonville staff and they were talking about, we know you want to play both ways. We're going to let you do it. Jacksonville's all in on letting him do whatever he wants up there. Right. They did give up a lot to get him. Cleveland still got a pretty good player at 5. Maybe didn't get Travis Hunter, but still got it, and then got another first-round pick, a bunch of other picks. They loaded up a little bit with that. JT, I go to you first. Were you a little shocked by the trade Jacksonville gave so much?
I mean, if there's a team that's going to trade, the number 2 spot, it's going to be Cleveland. Right. They're gonna trade. They're gonna give away the generational talent. Right. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't even say that they gave it away. I think Cleveland won the trade with in my opinion, with the picks that they got, man, and even that the draft that they had. Yeah. I think that they did really, really well. But also, then again, you look at it from the Jaguars' standpoint. I don't mind the Jags going and getting, a generational talent like Travis Hunter and, like you said, a guy that's going to play probably both ways for him. Yeah, but the question is how long can this guy play both ways? Right. It's the longevity of his career. That's tough, man. That is very, very tough to do. You already look at it like the average, the average career in NFL is like 3 years or something like that.
3.5 years or something like that.
If that's people playing one way, if he's playing 2 ways, man, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know if his body's going to last that long, but this guy is a generational athlete, generational player. So, it might work out for him, and I wish the best of luck to him.
Yeah, no, look, we want Travis Hunter to, play. We want to see a superstar there. That's not, that's I'm never poo-pooing on where these guys get drafted or anything like that. You want to see these guys. I want to see Travis Hunter as a Pro Bowler. I want to see him as a superstar in the league. That's fine. Plus, for Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr. on one side, Travis Hunter. He obviously takes a huge upgrade as well. But we did talk about Travis Hunter last week a little bit and playing both sides. It's going to be tough.
It is.
CJ, playing one position in the NFL is tough at that point. Playing both is another. What do you think trade-wise? What do you think about him going forward now, trying and probably going to be playing both ways?
I like it. We haven't seen it in a while. I mean, the last person we seen doing was Jabril Peppers when he was in Cleveland. And like I said last week, it wasn't done properly, I would say. The league wasn't as pass heavy, and it wasn't as productive it is now, because if you look, like you said, it's pass heavy league now. One, I think Travis is going to start on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
For sure.
And just have nickel packages where he comes in on defense.
Be smarter, I think. You're right.
I think at the end of the day, that's smarter. Instead, like the longevity of his body. If he's playing like 60 to 70 snaps, like in college, like whoop-de-doo, like that's your average snap count in college.
Right.
In the NFL, like your snap count goes down a lot. The game is a lot slower, but it's a lot more physical.
Right.
So like what JT said, when it comes to longevity of his body, like that's gonna play a huge factor in it. They're gonna see like maybe after like week 10, week 14, because you play 17, 18 games in the season now.
Right.
Like you're going from 10 to 11 to 17.
It's a lot, right?
My first year, I was going through it. Like week 16, I'm like, geez, like how many more weeks we got?
Rookie ball, we hit that a little rookie ball,
yes,
right?
And,
yeah.
I truly think he's gonna have the tools and stuff in that facility to make sure he lasts for the longevity.
Right.
I believe. 100%.
Well, they better at that point.
They gotta make sure he is well kept.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Hyperbaric chambers and everything. Just in case there. Let's talk a little bit about the Raiders. We had a hot take last week from basically the entire staff here on the show about Genty, about what kind of player he's going to be. We saw him in college. We saw obviously played for not the Alabama or the Georgia or the LSUs of the world. He played for a smaller school, played for Boise. We get that. Your point last week, CJ, was taken by about 900 of our commenters, and you were taken to the woodshed about you. And so you too, JT. Anyone who made any kind of comment last week. But now he's on the Raiders. Now we know where the destination is. Now we know the team is going to be. Now we know they're going to build around. Yeah. Obviously, Bowers and him is going to be the 1-2 punch.
It's going to be nice.
In Vegas. Any now change in your thought from last week or not? I mean, he hasn't played it down, so it's not like we're going off his first game and saying, CJ, look what happened. But
that's what I'm going to say right there. He hasn't played his first game yet, so I can't take back anything I've said or anything. I will 100% stick to my word. I am a 100% show me kind of guy.
Right. Woo. I like that.
And once he shows me and he like produces like week 10, week 15, he's like, oh yeah, he's one of these top backs, top rookie backs and stuff. And like that. I'll come on this stream right here and I will admit I'm wrong. That's one thing about me. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. It's a hot take, but I am following my hot take today.
Well, no, I'm glad. Listen, you're backing it up. He hasn't played it down yet. You're right. We'll see what happens. You just talked about the rookie wall. Now we're talking about 15 weeks into the season. I don't know if the Raiders are a playoff team. I don't even know if they're going to be up there or not. Right. But that is not something.
They're not.
That is not my hot take on the episode today. I promise you that. But JT, I look at it and say, if CJ's right, and all of a sudden we're in week 12, and this guy's putting up 120 yards, not even rushing, just all-purpose yards, because you know what he's going to be used in every facet of that offense. He will be, catching the ball, running the ball, whatever they can get. As long as you get your playmaker the ball, that's what the whole point is about. That's what they're going to do in Vegas there. That'll be a different story, but until then, still sticking to our guns from last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think, Ashton Jeanty, sorry. Ashton Jeanty, I think he's he's gonna be that guy for Las Vegas, you know what I mean? And then you run Jeanty, you just hit him Jeanty, and then you just lob it over for a little Bowers action, you know what I mean? That's the 1-2 punch that y'all are talking about, and I think it's awesome that the Raiders drafted him. Raiders, you're not a playoff team by any means.
Not breaking news here.
I think it's awesome that they got a guy now that's. He's a dude. He's a dude that's he's gonna give you a lot of yards. He's gonna get you a little bit more publicity for your team.
Sure.
Maybe a couple primetime games here and there for the Raiders, but I think it's a great addition to the squad.
Yeah, I do as well. And you know what the crazy part was, and I know that you guys have takes on this too. It's not one of those drafts where like the running backs were flying off, and I'm not saying in the first round because that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, that's what
you get the one guy in, you get maybe two, whatever the case is. Was there any that you thought probably dropped a little bit more, or someone you wanted to talk about? Because I know you had a hot take on another one, right?
There is a guy that dropped, and his name's Cam Scatterbo. You want to talk about a guy here, Arizona State. One of the only reasons why they made the playoffs last year, and also not only made the playoffs but went into overtime with the University of Texas, is because of Cam Scatterbo. I think this guy fell into the 4th round, went to the Giants. Shout out to the New York Giants for taking this guy, man. And I think this is a first-round talent that fell in the 4th round, and a guy that's going to put the team on his back. He's a team-first guy, and I just think it's crazy that this guy fell so far. But like I said, shout out to the Giants for taking him because he's an absolute beast of a human being. And he's a guy, you want to talk, he's literally the definition of toughness.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's a true meaning of a football player.
Yeah.
I have to watch him
That's
play his last few games at Arizona State, which I didn't watch much of the regular season, obviously, because I just didn't.
It's Arizona State. And if you're not a fan of Arizona State, you're probably not putting them on. I get it.
Yeah.
Watching him run the ball, it's just like it's amazing.
He's a man.
He shows grit, like you said with Cam Ward. He's one of those guys that just brings his lunch pail to work.
Yeah.
To work. Like,
all grind, no shine. You know what I mean?
He's one of those guys that you want in your locker room 100%.
Yeah.
You know he loves football. He's gonna put his all out no matter what.
And Giants, it's a perfect transition because I want to talk about the Giants. We did talk about the fact that really the draft started at 2 and 3. We already knew who was going, Cam Ward number 1, but really what happened after that, Giants, Abdul Carter.
We said that.
We said that was going to be a great pick for them. We look at that defensive line now. We talked about with Dexter Lawrence, and we talked about how that defensive line, Brian Burns, Thibodeau. Like, those 4 guys together are a scary front 4. But as much as I want to talk about Abdul Carter and Scatterbo too, what a great pick that was. Trade back in. We talked about another guy that was a hot take here on the show because we talked about the Shedeur Sanders thing, which we'll end with in just a second. They trade back into the first round. They pick up Jackson Dart, Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart. You want to talk about a team that hit a home run, or at least on paper in the first round?
Excellent.
They drafted well. You know, we all knew the Abdul Carter thing was coming in, and then them trading back in for Jackson Dart is.
I think that's great, man. And they got Scatterbo too,
right?
Bro.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good draft for a team that needed it. Needed a good draft.
They needed it.
Yeah, especially after last year. I go back and we said it again to that. We're talking about Hard Knocks last year, and we're talking about the whole Saquon debacle with that GM where he's like, I'm not going to really pay this guy $13 million. Ends up being probably the MVP of the league last year. And then the kid saying, oh, we should trade up and get Jaden Daniels. He might be good. No, we're not going to. I mean, think about what that team would have been. Yeah. The Giants drafting Jaden Daniels and keeping Saquon. Right. Giants we're talking about a different franchise.
That clip was crazy, too.
And they'll never live that down, yet they have the chance now. If Dart ends up being their starter. Now, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston are sitting there.
That's what I have questions about.
Right,
that's
okay, so go to it, right.
So my thing with Jameis and Russell Wilson being there is you have to think about longevity with those two. How long do you think they have left in the league? Like, realistically.
Russ, couple of years, 3 years.
Jameis has been
4 years.
Around
Jameis might play 10 more years, but he's never going to be a starter.
Yeah.
Like, he might be that guy
he's a backup.
He's the 43-year-old in a couple, not right now, but he'll be like the 43-year-old backup that plays emergency situation, 2 games left in the season, you're almost in the playoffs, Jameis comes in, throws you 5 touchdowns one game, maybe 5 interceptions the next one, whatever the case is, but that's that guy. But the Jackson Dart thing, to me, I think you're right. Russ is not going to be there forever. Russ and Jameis, my hot take here, neither one of them are on the team next year. Like, I don't think they're either on the Giants next year.
I like that too.
And Jackson Dart just takes over. Now, the real question is, does Jackson Dart, I'll pose this to both of you, and that's how we'll end the Giant conversation. Does Jackson Dart start a game for the Giants this season?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think
I would say yes.
By when?
I think at least by week 5.
Okay.
By week 5.
That's early, but that's a hot take.
I think by at least week 5. But I also think it's good that Jackson Dart has these guys in the QB room with him, right? Russell Wilson, he's a very good quarterback, seasoned pro. Then you also have Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's learned from a lot of guys, and he's been in the league for a very long time. They've both seen a lot of the league, you know what I mean? So I think it's very good that Jackson Dart has those 2 quarterbacks in front of him to help mentor him.
And Brian Dable, too, to help him out there. Yeah, week 5 for JT, what do you think?
Week 5 is kind of early for me.
Seems early, right? JT's ready for him.
Seems early.
If it were to happen in a week 5, that means Russell will have to play Pooh, and then Jameis will have to play.
They're
Pooh.
2 and 3 or 1 and 4 at that point, right?
It's hard for. I don't know if it's hard, but it'll be crazy if both of those just come out just pooping the bed. Right. By week 5, I would probably say week.
They might.
week 11 or 12, they're not too hot. Malik Neighbors is complaining he's not getting the rock properly.
Now he wants
exactly.
And one thing I know about Jackson Dart for sure, after watching him in person play with Drake London, he's going to get his playmakers the ball.
Yeah,
he's going to get his playmakers the ball. So if Malik Neighbors sees Jackson Dart in practice throwing him the ball every play, or every other play, Malik Neighbors is going to go in that office and be like, listen, we need Jackson Dart in there right now.
He needs to start.
And then we're going to see week 11, 12, Jackson Dart's going to tear it up at the end of the season, and then he's going to be started for the rest of the
Scatterbo and Dart by week 11, both starting in that team with Malik Neighbors. We want to talk about a young nucleus and that offense as well. Yeah. Speaking of quarterback rooms, let's end it with this one. Cleveland's got an interesting quarterback room now as well. Shedeur Sanders was a very, very hot topic from 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks before the draft, and he still is right now after what happened to that slip in that fall, and the Browns taking him after taking Dylan Gabriel in the draft, which is incredible to me as well. Joe Flacco is in that quarterback room. I don't even know who else is in that quarterback room at this point. A bunch of old guys, a bunch of young guys in that room. Your thoughts, CJ, I'll start with you here, on the Shedeur drop, the Shedeur fall, everything that happened. Our comments we had here last week on our podcast talking about we didn't think he'd be the second quarterback off the board. I don't think anyone in this room would have said he would have been a fifth-round pick at that point. Yeah. But the shock factor was there. We saw it happening in real time, which is really weird, especially on the night one where you saw him drop all the way down. Then all of a sudden, night two goes by, and he's still on the board when we get into the third day. It was a weird situation. Kind of felt bad for the whole situation in general for Shedeur. But, I mean, sometimes you get what you ask for. I guess you could say if he was this kind of flamboyant guy in these meetings or whatever the case may be. I don't know. The three of us were not in those meetings, folks. We don't know for sure. We're going off our opinions. But, CJ, the drop, the fall, and everything right now with Shedeur Sanders.
The drop is crazy because I was reading this article a few days ago, and they're saying, like, this was the most highly touted, most talked about, like, player in, like, last few years for him to drop as far as he did. Like, with the worst in history. And my thing is, when it comes to that, is, like, Shedeur has an amazing arm.
Right.
He's a facilitator. He, like you said, he has the great point somebody else brought up. He had 5 receivers drafted, which is crazy. So my thing is, like, it's not about his talent. It's not about, like, what he does on the field. It's what he does off the field that impacted him. See, one thing about college football, like with NIL and stuff like that, you can go out, you can make content, you can post all this stuff on social media. The school gets more publicity and stuff like that, so it benefits them. NFL doesn't care about that.
No.
They want you to come in, put your best foot forward, and put your all out for that team. And if you're too distracted by all this other stuff that's going on outside of football, they're not going to tolerate it. So I feel like, and on top of that, like people are saying his dad was a huge thing because, like, before the draft even started, like a few years, like week 5 in college football, he was saying, like, oh, if a team like the Giants or someone tries to come get my son, we're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So you can't say that technically because, like, now these GMs and these head coaches made an example out of Shedeur because
they sure did.
They really did. They really made an example.
In the next few years, if something like this, like a highly touted player or something like that were coming out, they know not to do what Shedeur did at the end of the day. Because I'm not, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from his talent. He's a talented quarterback.
Right.
Talented, but, like, the stuff that killed him was just the off the field stuff.
Yes,
I agree.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Shedeur Sanders falling. I didn't think he would. I'm not surprised that he fell out of the first round, but to fall as far as he did, yes, that is a little surprising, and that tells you a little something about, you know, what happened in those meetings. I would love to be a fly on the wall, whenever those meetings were happening, you know, and I just think these teams they don't want this reality TV show that comes with drafting Shedeur Sanders, and so that's maybe why he fell so far. But, you know, also he hasn't been coached by anyone else in a while other than his dad. Right. And, you know, they're going to give him this playbook, and then, you know, Shedeur's going to look at it and everything. You know, Dad's going to be a part of it whether you like it or not. You know, Deion's going to be in Shedeur's ear. Right. You know what I mean? And some of these coaches, some of these teams, they don't want that. They don't want Deion in their quarterback's ear about, hey, you know, Deion's telling them, hey, maybe you should do this instead of this, you know. They want it full control over their guys, and they don't want Deion to have a say about anything that their quarterback does.
Right. It'll be a fascinating story to watch this Shedeur Sanders story kind of just open up as a book this season. Let's end on this. Does Shedeur Sanders start a game this year for the Cleveland Browns?
It's the Cleveland Browns, so yes.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna they're gonna start 3 different quarterbacks this year, so more than likely, I think so. I don't know what week,
right.
But I would say
At
that
some
he's
point,
gonna get some snaps.
He's gonna get a shot.
We will see him
gonna
start
get
a
some
game
snaps
this year for the Cleveland Browns in the NFL. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Our little post draft kind of reaction at this point. We did a little pre-draft one as well. We got our takes out there for this. This will be a post one. This will not be the end of these two guys coming on here talking NFL and everything. We got everything coming up.
Come on.
OTAs. The summer will be a boring football summer. We'll get through all that. And then all of a sudden, we'll have the start of college football, the start of pro football.
The start of life.
And the start of, and the start of life.
And we
again,
get air.
once in a while.
We get air in our lungs.
And by the way, hobby-wise, as we close shop here, Seattle picked Milroe. That's now a chaser team.
Sure.
Think about our chaser teams upstairs now. When we're doing big breaks, when we're opening up new wax, Tennessee, Cam Ward,
Tennessee's a chaser.
the Raiders again. It was Bowers. Now it's Genty again. You think about that. And the Giants continue to be a huge chaser upstairs for just about everything.
They keep it
because
rolling.
now Jackson Dart at this point too. And by the way, don't think Cleveland is not a chaser too for this. And Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel. Come on.
People still want Shedeur.
Of course.
He's still going to sell. He's still got the name.
It's going to be fun. Fun chasers. The new chasers have come out for next season, folks. You better get ready for that as well. All right, for CJ, for JT, this has been Radio's Yard, another edition here as we wrap up the NFL draft and now get ready for the long, grueling non-football summer at this point at OTAs.